Hello, my name is Karishma, and my groupmate Max Mattis, and we're working on topic analysis of anonymous users in large community, basically Reddit in our case. Next slide. We did some background study, and we found two main studies that closely correlate with what we're trying to do. There was a 1995 study of Usenet where they basically tagged like anonymous messages on Anna and Peanut, and they found that a lot of anonymous messages were, discussion on like sex, hobbies, work. A lot of it was basically sexual contact and romantic stuff. Most popular was fetish content. And in 2015 Reddit study, which is the closest to the work that we're doing, they basically handpicked anonymous users and kind of just manually read what the topic of the content was, and they found throwaway accounts. And an account that was considered throwaway were just basically people who don't want to disclose their personal information, basically anonymous. And the way they detected throwaway accounts was basically just accounts that claimed to be throwaway. We kind of just took their word for it. And but most of these studies were manually handpicked, or they were just looking solely at the anonymous data. What we did is we picked the Reddit content over like huge scale, and we processed it using unigrams and natural language processing tools, and try to compare them with regular users and see what the actual difference is. Next slide. So we found that the maximum subreddit participation in accounts that were normal or long-term and short-term throwaways. We defined long-term throwaways as accounts that were claimed to be long-term before the research period, and we defined the short-term accounts as those that were just created after we started our research study. In case there's a huge difference, because there are people who might make throwaway accounts just for a short time for one specific task and then not use that again, and those accounts can have much different behaviors. We found that normal accounts had more like the normal known popular subreddits: Ask Reddit, Funny, Pigs, Gaming, etc. The long-term subreddits definitely went towards more pornographic content, but an interesting fact is that they were definitely more focused on pornographic content where the focus was on meeting people, which was interesting. Short-term content didn't have as much, but they were more for advice, legal advice, relationship advice. There was still some pornographic content there, but not as much as the long-term, at least in subreddit participation. Next
Okay,
slide.
so we also looked at the engrams and common things that users were talking about. Just sort of corresponding to what was on the last slide, the normal users primarily were discussing video game topics, politics, books, music, videos, just sort of the generic topics that spanned a broad range of things. But the vast majority were words and phrases relating to popular video games. Um, the long-term throwaways, again, this sort of confirmed the subscriber numbers. Most of the terms that they used more often than other users were relating to sexuality and specific fetishes. And there were a notable amount of terms relating to requesting people to send them a private message or text them or communicate with them or send them pictures. And additionally, there was a little bit of an increase in discussion of drugs and depression and anxiety compared to normal users in the long-term throwaway accounts. In the short-term throwaways, a lot of it was that sort of advice about legal issues, career issues, finance, sort of mental health and physical health both showed up, as well as issues with school and college. Most of them focused on issues with relationships, but the terms differed a lot from the long term throwaways in that they focused more on relationship problems like divorce, consent, and abuse, as opposed to sexual preferences. And also sort of confirming the previous work done in 2015 on this topic. The short term throwaways were more likely to use first person pronouns, whereas all other accounts were likely to use second person pronouns because. And they were also more likely to use storytelling type vocabulary, such as certain dates. Years showed up a lot more. Phrases like this morning, because these accounts are trying to tell a personal story to get advice about it. So that's what we've studied so far.
In the future, we would like to use existing language processing tools that like rather than just using the engrams, we were going to use topic models in Python to further analyze what specific topic, or at least as we can decipher them, are these short-term throwaways and long-term throwaways are talking about compared to normal users, rather than just looking at what words they're using, which might help us further establish the differences between these accounts and what people behave when they're assumed anonymous.